Should we just be like, okay, here we go. Get serious.
Hey BookTube, welcome back.
Today we are going to bring you a 7 on Sunday.
Yeah.
This is hosted by G Swizz.
And there's a whole Goodreads group with all the prompts and everything, so we'll link that below.
This week, the theme is characters you identify with. So whether that is in skin color, sexual orientation, gender, circumstance, just
Mental
whatever,
health,
really.
whatever speaks to you.
Career path.
Yeah.
All right, and we're just gonna dive right in.
Yeah.
So, I'm a mostly white, straight male. So, you asked for this 7 on Sunday, and I took it in a bit of a satirical direction, just to have fun with it. I did have a few serious ones, but let's go ahead and get it started with Victor Frankenstein from Frankenstein by Mary Shelley, who is a straight white rich male who is sent to college, and college is paid for by his father. He quickly becomes the top of his class, probably mostly through just his own skill, right? I'm sure being rich and white and male had nothing to do with it. Then he accidentally makes a person from body parts, and then is just victimized throughout the rest of that book for just trying to live his life. And
Nobody wants to let him.
nobody wants to let him have any kind of peace or happiness.
Nobody understands how much turmoil his life is.
How much trauma he
Yeah.
goes through on a daily basis.
I love that you picked that, because the entire time reading that, I was just like, this guy is just so whiny and privileged. That's hilarious. Hilarious.
What was the first one for you?
For me, okay, don't make fun of me. I'm going with Triss from Divergent. This is my guilty pleasure read. I love this book so much. The main character, Triss, comes from a group, a family, and an environment where they value piety and modesty, and they're religious, and they're supposed to be very, very muted, very quiet, very just subservient, basically. And she doesn't feel like she belongs. And so she makes the choice to go join the rowdy, crazy, loud, tattooed and pierced and crazy, like, colored hair group of people. And she was really struggling, like, do I do it, do I not? But she chose to go and, like, find other people that feel similar to her, and she, like, breaks out of her oppressive social situation, and I just love it so much. I relate.
It's awesome. Okay, the next one for me is Edward Ferrars from Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen. I actually do a little bit identify with Edward Ferrars because in the book, at least, he was about the most boring guy in the room, and I can kind of identify with that. I don't know what they did or if I just read the book wrong, but in watching the movie, Hugh Grant is wonderful and actually breathes some life into that character. So the book was, he was just kind of there, and I'm not sure at all why Eleanor wanted his nuts so bad, you know? It's, I mean, to put it in proper
Okay.
Austen English, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously. Okay, the next on my list, I'm going with Murderbot from I think it's a quartet now, by Martha Wells. And this is a series about an extremely antisocial robot that just wants everyone to leave him alone, or leave them alone, so that they can watch their trashy television shows. And all the humans keep being like, hey, you need to come do your job. Come on, go investigate stuff, something. And they're just like, oh, just leave me alone. And I identify with that. I, too, am extremely antisocial.
And you like your trash TV too?
And I love my trash TV. I do.
All right, the next one on my list is Dante from The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. Dante is not rich at first, but he's white and straight, and he's a guy. And he gets kind of shafted, sort of framed for some wrongdoing, and ends up in prison for a long time. And he breaks out, finds some treasure, and then begins to plot his revenge. And it was a good thing that he was straight, white, and male, because if he was anything else, that book would have ended right
With
then.
him just in prison? The end.
Probably back in prison again. Yeah, he probably would have just had, they would probably just have had their money stolen from them and then thrown back in prison. You know? Yeah.
That's so bad when you think about it, but it's so true. Like, the only reason that story works. Wow. Okay, so the next character I am going with is Violet from Rat Queens. And this series is by Curtis J. Weeb. I think that's how you pronounce it. I've only read the first, I think, 3 issues of this. But I loved it. It was a story about a group of women who are like crass and they're just cursing and drinking and doing drugs and having sex, and they're just like badass like fighter women in this group, and they're just awesome. And Violet is a redhead, like kind of a knight character, but I think she's a dwarf. And so she's like super strong, and she's running away from her family because her family just they want her to stop shaving her beard off and settle down and start having kids, and she's like, no, leave me alone, you know. I identify with her on many levels.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very good choice.
Thank you.
My next one is John from Old Man's War by John Scalzi. He's the main character in the first book. He is straight, white, and male. And he joins the army to where everyone becomes green at that point, which I guess is good for him because that puts everyone on the same level. I feel like they made that argument in the book somewhere.
They must have.
For cohesiveness, for make everyone the same color.
Well, I think they had like I think you played it off as like they get to photosynthesize or something.
That's
don't they?
right. That's right. Yes, plant people. But he gets laid like crazy throughout this book, so good for him. He also is so average that somehow that his averageness makes him an awesome soldier. And he also meets a clone of his wife that isn't his wife, but looks like her. And he decides that she's going to be his, no matter what she wants. And he will convince her of that. And so that is the embodiment of male privilege right there.
I so forgot about that. I forgot about the wife body thing. Oh, because I like the ideas behind, you know, that book. That one and the second one. The next 2 were kind of terrible, but yeah, now looking back on it, it's kind of bad, isn't it? Oh. Okay, the next one is kind of weird, but hang with me. So, Sammy from The History of Living Forever by Jake Wolf. And this is a really, really complicated, unlikable character. It's kind of a terrible, terrible character. A lot of mental health issues going on. But there is this one scene where they talk about how Sammy is constantly putting on a sweater and then taking it off like 5 minutes later and then putting it back on, and just like never comfortable in their own skin, in his own skin. Like he's never comfortable like temperature wise, and just like everything just like rubs at him the wrong way. And I just love that. It's just like I feel that so hard.
That is very you. It's very you.
Yeah.
All right, my next ones are a little more on the level. So I have Nash from Captivated by Nora Roberts. Nash is a very normal, kind of average Joe. and he meets a witch through his work, which is screenwriting, which he's writing a witch movie. And, you know, he's a very down-to-earth guy and knows that this witch is not really a witch. She just does it to sell herbs from her shop and everything. Mm-hmm. And she spends a lot of the book actually trying to convince him, no, I'm actually a witch. And he's just kind of like, okay, yeah, no, right. Mm-hmm. You know, wink, wink. Okay, sure. And I identify with that because I am a very practical person. And I do not really buy into anything in the supernatural in the real world, though I love me some supernatural in fiction.
Mm. My next pick is Tara from Educated, Tara Westover. This is actually a memoir, but I identified so much with her and her. Obviously, I did not go to Ivy League school and become super successful, but I identified with her crazy background, her childhood, and hers was a bit more extreme than mine. But I, too, came from heavy on the conspiracy theory, religious nuts. So, yeah, and I escaped. So, I identify there.
My next one is Momonga from Overlord by Kugene Maruyama. This is a story about a normal, everyday, just working guy in Japan who spends the last hours of his favorite online game in the actual server, but then is reborn essentially in that form of his character, and his crypt or his or the tomb is what it is, and along with all of the NPCs that he and his friends have created in this game. And now they are alive and looking to him and calling him the Supreme One. And so I very much identify with the fact that he has no idea how to be like a proper leader or anything like that, and just sort of fakes his way through every day and sweats his way through many situations, hoping things just kind of work out. So I identify with that.
Okay, my penultimate choice here is Keiko from Convenience Store Woman by Sayaka Murata. And I loved this story. This was a woman who didn't feel like she fit in with society until she got a job at a convenience store. And something about the orderly way that she knew exactly what she needed to do, and she got so good at it that she like excelled at it, and she felt confident, and she was perfectly comfortable there in that job. But the more years that she stayed at that job, the more other people were kind of giving her shit about it and being like, don't you have higher aspirations in life than to just be a convenience store girl? And she was like, why? I'm perfectly comfortable here. I have a job. Isn't that what you want? You know? And like, I don't know. I identify with that because I too never had grand aspirations and have basically had a very similar job, like minimum wage type or entry level, whatever. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I identify with that.
My last one is kind of squishy, but this is Levi from Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell, because he fell in love with a redhead who wears glasses and writes fan fiction.
Okay, and my last one is Cimmerian from Dealing with Dragons by Patricia C. Reed. And I identify completely, heart, soul, and everything with the fact that she was born to privilege and she was a princess, and her family just wanted her to wear dresses and marry a prince and be a proper princess, and she said no, and she ran off to go live with dragons. And every time a knight comes to rescue her, she tells him to go away. She's like, you're bothering me, please leave, I have things to do. And I just love that so much.
Perfect.
Yep.
All right, that was our 7 on Sunday. Go ahead and give us a comment or give us a link to your 7 on Sunday. And we'll see you in a week, everyone.
Bye, guys.